The small human ship was falling out of the sky. Red clouds rushed past the burning metal as warning alarms screamed inside the cockpit. Critical failure. Critical failure. The ship's computer repeated again and again. Daniel Carter gripped the control stick tightly. His hands were shaking. "This can't be happening," he whispered. He had been traveling through deep space for weeks, mapping unknown star systems for the exploration fleet. Everything had been normal, until 10 minutes ago. Now his ship was dying. The engines were gone. Navigation was dead. Only the emergency thrusters were still working. Through the cracked window, Daniel could see the surface of a strange planet rushing closer. Purple skies, dark forests, 2 large moons hanging above the horizon. He pulled the emergency lever. "Brace for impact," the computer said. The ship slammed through the tops of giant trees. Branches shattered against the metal hull. Sparks flew everywhere. Then the ship crashed into the ground with a violent boom. Everything went black. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then Daniel slowly opened his eyes. Smoke filled the cockpit. Pain shot through his shoulder as he moved. "Still alive," he groaned. That was already a small miracle. He unbuckled himself and grabbed his survival bag. The cockpit door was half broken, but he forced it open and stepped outside. Fresh air hit his face. Daniel looked around carefully. The forest was massive. The trees were taller than anything he had seen on Earth. Their thick trunks stretched high into the dark purple sky. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. It was completely silent. No birds. No animals. No wind. Just silence. Daniel checked the scanner on his wrist. The small screen blinked. Life signs detected. But only one. Just one, he muttered. Before he could think more about it, a deep roar echoed through the forest. Daniel froze. The ground trembled with heavy footsteps. Something big was coming. Very big. Branches snapped in the distance as a huge shadow moved between the trees. Daniel slowly reached for the small plasma pistol on his belt. Then the creature stepped into the clearing. Daniel's eyes widened. It was not an animal. It was a woman. A very large woman. She was almost 8 feet tall. Her skin was green. Her muscles were strong and powerful. Long black hair fell across her shoulders, and 2 small tusks curved up from the sides of her mouth. An orc. Daniel had heard stories about orc civilizations in distant systems, but he had never seen one before. The orc woman held a large spear. Her golden eyes studied him carefully. For a moment, neither of them moved. Daniel slowly raised both hands. "I'm not here to fight," he said calmly. The orc woman stepped closer. Her eyes grew wider as she looked at his face. Then something strange happened. She dropped the spear. It hit the ground with a heavy thud. Before Daniel could react, she rushed forward and grabbed his arms. Her grip was incredibly strong. She stared directly into his eyes, breathing quickly. You are human," she said softly. Daniel blinked. "Yes, I am." The orc woman looked around the silent forest nervously, like she was afraid someone might hear them. Then she leaned closer and whispered something that made Daniel's heart skip. "You came at the right time." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" The orc woman hesitated for a moment. Then she said something shocking. "I'm the last fertile orc on this planet." Daniel stared at her in confusion. "The last what?" Her voice became serious. "My people are gone. War and sickness destroyed our clans." She stepped closer, her golden eyes full of urgency. "If you want to survive here, human," she pointed directly at him, "you must help me save my species." Daniel's brain struggled to understand what he just heard. "Wait, hold on. What exactly are you asking me to do?" The orc woman took a slow breath. Then she said quietly, "Come with me to the ruins of my people." Daniel looked toward the dark forest. Something about this planet felt dangerous. But before he could answer, far away in the mountains, something ancient had already seen the human ship crash. And deep underground, something had just awakened. The forest was still silent. Daniel stood in the clearing, staring at the tall orc woman in front of him. Her golden eyes were fixed on him, full of urgency. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Okay, slow down," he said. "You just told me you're the last fertile orc on this planet. I think I need a little more explanation." The orc woman nodded slowly. My name is Kara, she said. Daniel hesitated for a moment, then replied, Daniel. Kara looked at the crashed ship behind him. That ship falling from the sky. I thought the spirits were angry again, she said quietly. Daniel forced a small smile. No spirits. Just bad luck. Kara picked up her spear again and looked around the forest carefully. We should not stay here, she said. The forest is not safe anymore. Daniel noticed the way she said anymore. What changed, he asked. Kara turned and began walking deeper into the trees. Come, she said. I will show you. Daniel looked back once at his broken ship. Then he followed her. The two walked through the giant forest for almost 30 minutes. The trees slowly became thinner, and the ground turned dark and dry. Soon they reached a hill. Kara stopped at the top and pointed forward. Daniel looked down and froze. Below them was a massive city, or at least what used to be a city. Huge stone towers stood broken and empty. Giant gates were shattered. Burn marks covered the ground. The wind pushed dust through the ruins of what once looked like a powerful civilization. This was your home? Daniel asked quietly. Kara nodded. This was the capital of the Orc clans. Daniel slowly looked around. But where is everyone? Kara's face darkened. They are dead. Daniel stayed silent. Kara walked down into the ruins. Daniel followed her carefully. Broken weapons were scattered across the ground. Old banners hung torn between the buildings. This was not just war, Daniel said. No, Kara replied. It was worse. They stopped in the middle of a large stone square. Kara touched the cracked ground with her hand. 5 years ago, a sickness came, she said. Daniel frowned. A plague. Yes. Her voice was heavy. It killed our strongest warriors first, then the elders, then the children. Daniel slowly realized something strange. Wait, you said you're the last fertile orc. Kara nodded. The sickness changed the bodies of those who survived. Many orcs can no longer have children. Daniel's eyes widened. So your species is slowly dying. Kara looked at him. Yes. Daniel looked around the dead city again. Now the silence made sense. How many orcs are left? He asked. Kara hesitated. Very few. Daniel crossed his arms. And somehow you think I can help? Kara looked directly into his eyes. Long ago, humans and orcs fought together in many worlds. Daniel nodded. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Our ancient scholars studied human biology, Kara continued. They discovered something important. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What? Kara took a deep breath. Humans and orcs are not so different. Daniel stared at her. What exactly are you saying? Kara looked serious. If the future of my people is to survive, a human may be the only hope. Daniel blinked several times. That sounds like a very big responsibility for a guy who just crash landed. For the first time, Kara gave a small smile. Yes, it does. Suddenly Daniel's wrist scanner beeped loudly. He looked down. Multiple life signals were appearing, but they were moving fast. Kara, he said slowly. You said there were very few orcs left. Yes. Well, something else is coming. A deep growl echoed through the ruined city. Dark shapes began crawling out of the broken buildings. Daniel slowly pulled out his plasma pistol. What are those? He asked. Kara's face turned serious. Creatures created by the sickness. The monsters stepped into the open. Their bodies were twisted. Their eyes glowed with hunger, and they were staring directly at the two survivors. Kara tightened her grip on her spear. Then she said quietly, Welcome to my dying world, human. The first creature stepped out of the broken building. Daniel had never seen anything like it. Its body looked like an orc, but twisted and broken. Its skin was gray and cracked. Its arms were too long, and its mouth was full of sharp teeth. Dark liquid dripped from its chin. Behind it, more creatures appeared. 1, 2, 5, then 10. They crawled over the ruins like hungry wolves. Daniel slowly raised his plasma pistol. Please tell me these things don't run fast, he said quietly. Kara's voice was serious. They run very fast. Daniel sighed. Of course they do. One of the creatures let out a horrible scream. The sound echoed through the empty city. That was the signal. The monsters charged. Move! Kara shouted. Daniel fired. The plasma pistol flashed blue light. The first creature was thrown backward as the blast hit its chest, but the others kept coming. Kara jumped forward with incredible speed. Her spear moved like lightning. One creature leaped at her. She spun and drove the spear straight through its neck. Another monster tried to grab her from the side, but she kicked it away with powerful force. Daniel fired again. Another creature dropped, but there were too many. They're surrounding us, Daniel shouted. Kara looked around quickly. There, she said, pointing to a broken stone tower. Inside, they ran toward the tower as the creatures chased them through the ruins. Daniel fired behind him while running. One monster fell, but another quickly replaced it. They reached the tower entrance and rushed inside. Kara pushed a heavy stone door. Daniel helped her. Together, they forced it closed. A loud thud echoed as the monsters slammed against the other side. For a moment, both of them stood there breathing heavily. The creatures scratched and growled outside, trying to break in. Daniel leaned against the wall. Okay, he said, breathing hard. Your planet officially has a monster problem. Kara nodded. These were once orc warriors. Daniel looked at her. The plague did that to them. Yes. Her voice sounded sad. The sickness destroyed their minds first. Then it changed their bodies. Outside, the creatures continued clawing at the door. But the old stone tower was strong. Daniel walked deeper inside the tower. Dust covered everything. Broken stone statues stood along the walls. This place looks ancient, he said. Kara followed him. It is older than the city. Daniel noticed strange symbols carved into the walls. Orc writing? He asked. Yes. Daniel pointed at one of the carvings. What does that say? Kara walked closer and brushed dust off the stone. Her eyes widened. This is strange, she said. What is it? Kara read the symbol slowly. This temple speaks of a visitor from the stars. Daniel blinked. A visitor? Kara nodded. A human. Daniel stared at her. Wait, you're telling me humans have been here before? Kara continued reading the ancient writing. It says, one day, when the orc people stand at the edge of extinction, she looked up at Daniel. A human will arrive. Daniel laughed nervously. You're kidding. Kara shook her head. The prophecy says the human will bring the choice, life or death for our species. Daniel crossed his arms. Well, that sounds like a lot of pressure. Suddenly the scratching outside stopped. The silence returned. Daniel frowned. That's not good. Kara nodded slowly. They are not stupid. Daniel carefully moved toward a cracked window in the tower wall. He looked outside. The monsters were gone. All of them. Daniel's stomach tightened. Where did they go? Kara suddenly stepped back. Her eyes focused on the doorway behind Daniel. Not gone, she whispered. Daniel slowly turned around. A huge shadow moved inside the dark tower entrance. Something much larger than the others stepped forward. Its body was massive. Its eyes burned with red light, and its roar shook the entire tower. Daniel slowly raised his pistol again. Kara tightened her grip on her spear. And for the first time since meeting Daniel, the last orc looked truly afraid. The roar filled the old tower like thunder. Dust fell from the ceiling as the giant creature stepped inside. Daniel slowly backed up. Okay, that one is definitely bigger, he whispered. The monster was at least 10 feet tall. Its body was huge and twisted, like the plague had turned it into something far worse than the others. Its arms were thick like tree trunks, and its glowing red eyes stared directly at them. Kara's grip tightened around her spear. That was once a war chief, she said quietly. Daniel glanced at her. Let me guess, the plague again. Kara nodded. Yes. The creature let out another roar and slammed its massive fist into the stone floor. Cracks spread across the ground. Daniel quickly raised his plasma pistol. Any ideas? He asked. Kara pointed behind the monster. There's another door in the back of the temple. If we reach it, we can escape. Daniel looked at the creature again. And how exactly do we get past that? The monster suddenly charged. Daniel fired his pistol. A bright blue blast hit the creature's chest, but it barely slowed down. Well, that's not good, Daniel shouted. Kara jumped forward before the creature could reach him. She spun her spear and struck its arm with all her strength. The spear cut deep, and dark blood splashed across the stone floor. The monster roared in anger and swung its massive arm. Kara jumped back just in time. "Daniel," she shouted. "Now!" Daniel understood. He fired again, aiming for the creature's eyes. The blast exploded near its face. The monster screamed and staggered back for a moment. "Run! Kara yellet!" They rushed past the creature and ran deeper into the temple. Behind them, the monster smashed through a stone pillar in rage. The ground shook as it chased them. Daniel and Kara reached a large chamber at the end of the hallway. Ancient stone carvings covered every wall. In the center stood a tall stone pillar glowing with faint blue light. Kara stopped suddenly. "This is the heart of the temple," she said. Daniel looked at the glowing pillar. "What is it?" "Kara yalkit kalusiv." It holds the ancient knowledge of the Orc people. Behind them, the monster's footsteps were getting closer. Daniel looked back nervously. "I hate to interrupt the history lesson, but we might die in about 10 seconds. Kara quickly placed her hand on the glowing pillar. The light became brighter. Strange symbols began glowing across the walls of the chamber. Daniel watched in surprise as images appeared on the stone. Ancient battles, Orc warriors, and humans. Daniel stepped closer. "Wait, those are humans." Kara nodded. "Yes." One of the glowing images showed an Orc leader standing beside a human soldier. "They fought together," Daniel said. "Yes," Kara replied. "Our ancestors trusted humans once." Another image appeared. It showed a human arriving from the sky in a small ship. Daniel stared at it. "That looks familiar." Kara read the glowing symbols slowly. "This temple records a prophecy." Daniel crossed his arms. "Let me guess. Something about a human showing up at the worst possible time." Kara looked at him seriously. "The prophecy says when the Orc race stands on the edge of extinction." She pointed to the glowing image of the human. "A human traveler from the stars will arrive." Daniel felt a strange chill. "And what happens then?" Kara continued reading. "He will bring the final choice for the Orc people." Daniel frowned. "What kind of choice?" Kara looked directly into his eyes. "Either our species will be saved." Her voice became quiet. "Or we will disappear forever." At that moment, the giant monster crashed into the chamber behind them. The floor shook as it roared in fury. Daniel quickly raised his pistol again. "Well," he said nervously, "looks like the prophecy didn't mention the angry monster part." But before either of them could move, a second voice echoed from the dark entrance of the temple. A deep voice. An Orc voice. "Prophecy is nothing but lies." Daniel and Kara both turned. A tall Orc warrior stepped out of the shadows. Unlike the monsters outside, he looked normal, strong, healthy, and very angry. His cold eyes locked onto Daniel. Then he said something that made the air feel colder. "A human is the reason our people are dying." The chamber fell silent. Daniel and Kara both stared at the Orc warrior standing in the entrance. He was tall, almost as tall as Kara, but much heavier. His armor was old and scratched from many battles. A long scar ran across his face. But the most dangerous thing about him was his eyes. They were full of hatred. His cold gaze stayed locked on Daniel. "A human," the warrior growled. "After all these years, another human comes to finish the job." Daniel slowly lowered his pistol a little. "Okay, I feel like I just walked into a misunderstanding," he said. Kara stepped forward quickly. "Tharn, stop," she said firmly. Daniel glanced at her. "You know this guy?" Kara nodded slowly. "This is Tharn. He was one of the strongest warriors of the Iron Clan." Tharn looked at Kara with anger. He said bitterly, "before our world died." The giant infected war chief behind them roared again, but Tharn didn't even look at it. Instead, he pointed his axe directly at Daniel. "This creature is the problem." Daniel raised both hands. "Hey, I literally just got here." Tharn ignored him. "You think I don't know your kind?" he said. "Humans bring war everywhere they go." Kara shook her head. "That is not true." Tharn slammed the end of his axe into the stone floor. 5 years ago, a human ship crashed near the northern mountains, he said. Daniel frowned. "Another human?" "Yes," Tharn growled. "He brought strange machines, strange technology." Kara looked shocked. "You never told the council this." There was no time, Tharn replied. He pointed toward the ruined city outside. Soon after he arrived, the sickness began. Daniel slowly understood. You think the human caused the plague? Tharn's voice was cold. I know he did. For a moment, no one spoke. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Well, that's bad for my reputation. Kara stepped closer to Tharn. If a human truly caused this, then we must find the truth, she said. Tharn shook his head. There is nothing to find. He raised his axe again. The solution is simple. Daniel already knew what was coming. You killed a human, he said. Tharn nodded. Yes. Daniel sighed. This planet really hates visitors. The infected war chief suddenly smashed another pillar behind them. Stone exploded across the floor. The monster was getting closer. Kara quickly stepped between Daniel and Tharn. You will not touch him, she said firmly. Tharn stared at her in disbelief. You defend him? Yes. He is the same species that destroyed us. Kara's voice became stronger. He is also the only chance our people have left. Tharn laughed darkly. You believe the old temple stories? Kara pointed at the glowing carvings. The prophecy speaks clearly. The warrior looked at the images on the wall. For a moment, his expression softened. Then it hardened again. Prophecy did not save our children, he said quietly. Daniel stepped forward carefully. Look, I understand why you're angry, he said. But if a human really caused this plague, then I want to know why too. Tharn looked at him with suspicion. Why? Daniel shrugged. Because if some idiot from my species destroyed your world, I like to fix it. The orc warrior studied Daniel for a long moment. Before he could answer, the infected war chief finally reached them. With a terrifying roar, the monster charged into the chamber. Stone shattered as it attacked. Daniel quickly raised his pistol. Kara lyftet hersipiv. Tharn spun his axe. For the first time, the three stood together against the giant monster. But deep under the planet, something ancient was already waking, and none of them yet understood the terrible truth. The plague was never meant to kill the orcs. It was meant to wake something up. Rocket, the giant infected war chief, crashed into the chamber like a living storm. Its roar shook the ancient temple walls. Daniel jumped back and raised his plasma pistol. Kara spun her spear in both hands. Tharn lifted his heavy battle axe. For the first time since meeting each other, the three stood side by side. The monster charged. Move! Daniel shouted. He fired his pistol. The blue plasma bolt slammed into the creature's shoulder. Burned flesh exploded, but the monster barely slowed down. It swung its massive arm. Tharn stepped forward without fear. His axe flashed through the air and struck the monster's leg with a heavy crack. The creature howled in pain. Kara jumped high and stabbed her spear into its back. The monster shook violently, trying to throw her off. Daniel, its eyes. Kara shouted. Daniel aimed carefully. Another plasma blast shot forward and hit the creature directly in the face. The monster roared and stumbled backward, but it was still alive. Why won't it die? Daniel yelled. Tharn gritted his teeth. The plague makes them stronger. The creature smashed a stone column. The roof above them cracked loudly. Pieces of rock began falling. This whole temple is going to collapse, Daniel shouted. Kara quickly looked toward the glowing pillar in the center of the chamber. The pillar, she said. It holds the temple's power. Daniel frowned. What kind of power? Ancient orc technology. Tharn suddenly understood. The emergency defense system. Kara nodded. If we activate it, the temple may destroy the monster. Daniel quickly ran toward the glowing pillar. Then let's press the big scary alien button. He placed both hands on the glowing surface. The pillar suddenly lit up brighter. Ancient symbols flashed across the walls. A deep humming sound filled the chamber. The monster noticed the light and roared in anger. It charged straight toward Daniel. Daniel, Kara shouted. Tharn jumped forward and slammed his axe into the creature's chest. Finish it, human, he yelled. Daniel looked at the glowing symbols. Please tell me this thing has an English setting. The symbols shifted. Then suddenly, a bright beam of energy shot from the ceiling. It struck the monster directly. The chamber exploded with white light. The creature screamed as the beam burned through its body. After a few seconds, the monster collapsed. Silence returned to the temple. Daniel slowly lowered his hands from the pillar. "Well," he said, breathing hard. "That worked." Kara and Tharn both stared at the destroyed creature. But something strange was happening. The pillar was still glowing, even brighter than before. Daniel frowned. "That doesn't look like it's turning off." Suddenly, a new image appeared on the wall. Not an ancient drawing. A moving image. Daniel stepped closer. "What is that?" The image showed a huge underground machine deep beneath the planet's surface. Massive metal structures moved slowly. Strange lights blinked across enormous alien technology. Tharn looked confused. "That is not Orc design." Kara read the new symbols carefully. Her face slowly turned pale. "This temple was hiding something," she whispered. Daniel crossed his arms. "Let me guess, more bad news?" Kara nodded. The sickness was never natural. Daniel looked at the giant machine on the wall. "So someone built it?" "Yes." Tharn stepped closer. "Who?" The symbols changed again. A warning message appeared. Daniel's scanner suddenly beeped loudly. Energy levels across the entire planet were rising. Guys," Daniel said slowly. "That machine is waking up." The temple shook violently. The ground beneath them trembled. Kara looked at the message again. Her voice became very quiet. This machine was designed to cleanse the planet. Daniel frowned. "Cleanse?" Tharn's eyes widened. "It means exterminate." The message flashed again. "Planetary purge sequence activated." Daniel looked at both orcs. "Well, that's definitely worse than the monsters." "Kara grabit hersipir." "We must destroy it." Tharn lifted his axe. "But it is deep underground." Daniel slowly smiled. Then he looked toward the crashed human ship far beyond the ruined city. "Good thing," he said. "I came here with explosives." Rocket the ground trembled beneath the ancient temple. Dust fell from the ceiling as the warning symbols continued flashing across the walls. Planetary purge sequence activated. Daniel stared at the glowing message. "Well," he said slowly, "this planet really likes dramatic endings." Kara looked at the moving image of the massive machine deep under the surface. "If that machine finishes its work, every living thing on this world will die," she said. Tharn gripped his axe tightly. "Then we destroy it." Daniel nodded. "I was hoping you'd say that." Outside the temple, the wind had started to howl through the ruined city. The planet itself seemed to be waking up. Daniel quickly looked at his wrist scanner. The machine underground was sending powerful energy waves across the entire planet. "We don't have much time," he said. "Then move," Tharn growled. The three rushed out of the temple and ran through the broken streets of the ancient Orc city. Far in the distance, Daniel could see smoke rising from his crashed ship. "Please tell me your explosives survived the crash," Kara said while running beside him. Daniel gave a nervous smile. "We're about to find out." They reached the forest again. The sky had grown darker, and the ground trembled with every few steps. Finally, the broken human ship appeared between the giant trees. Daniel ran to the open cargo compartment. Inside, several metal crates were still intact. "Yes," he said with relief. He opened one crate and pulled out a pack of powerful mining explosives. "These should be enough to destroy that machine," he said. Tharn looked at the devices suspiciously. Human weapons always look small, but cause big destruction. Daniel grinned. "That's kind of our thing." Kara looked at the scanner. "The machine is directly below the northern mountains." Daniel pointed toward a narrow valley ahead. "There's a cave system there. If we're lucky, it leads underground." The three moved quickly toward the mountains. The deeper they went into the rocky valley, the stronger the shaking became. Soon they found a huge cave entrance. Strange blue light flickered from deep inside. Daniel held his pistol ready. "Looks like we found it." They walked deeper into the cave. After a few minutes, the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. The machine was enormous. Towering metal structures rose from the ground like alien towers. Energy beams shot between giant glowing rings. The sound of the machine was like a deep mechanical heartbeat. Daniel whistled quietly. "That thing is huge." Kara pointed toward the center. "There, the core." A glowing sphere pulsed with energy in the middle of the machine. Daniel quickly placed the explosives on the nearby control pillars. Tharn stood guard while Kara watched the energy levels rising. Hurry, she said. The purge sequence is almost complete. Daniel finished placing the final charge. Then he pressed the detonator timer. 30 seconds, he said. The three ran back toward the cave entrance. The ground shook harder. 20 seconds. They reached the tunnel. 10 seconds. They ran outside into the cold mountain air. Then, boom! A massive explosion erupted from inside the mountain. The ground shook violently. For a moment, the entire mountain glowed with bright light. Then everything became quiet. Daniel slowly looked at his scanner. The energy waves had stopped. The purge machine was gone. The planet was safe. Kara stood silently, watching the rising twin moons above the mountains. Our world lives, she whispered. Tharn placed his axe on the ground. For the first time in years, I believe we may have a future. Daniel looked at the two orcs. Well, he said, now we just need to rebuild a civilization. Kara turned toward him. You helped save our world, human. She stepped closer. And our people still need hope. Daniel looked toward the stars above. His ship was destroyed. Earth might never find him again. But when he looked back at Kara and the quiet world waiting to be reborn, he smiled. All right, he said. Let's build something new. Under the light of the twin moons, the last orc girl and the lost human began the first chapter of a new future. Milky Way.